What's going on, H2O Army? Justin from H2O Plants, and today we're taking a look at what's inside my box. I have to tell you, it's expensive and quite rare, so stay tuned if you want to find out. Alright guys, so let's get into this box. If you're gonna ask where I got these plants from, I actually got them from one of the Facebook groups. Her name is Amy. She hooked it up. She had a bunch of moss she was selling, and some of this moss is rarer than actual illegal drugs that you could think of, or not rarer but more expensive, I guess. And so let's get into it. First is giant willow moss, and you're gonna see here it looks a little brown. Some of it was dead, but there was other pieces that she included which were a lot more green. But even so, even on that little bit of deadness, there was some green, which I'm sure is going to bounce back without a problem. Moss, I've actually had a recent experience where I actually killed a lot of what I had using like algae fix. So I kept it out of a tank for a while, and surprisingly, it came back. It was pale, brown, disgusting, and there was still new growth that popped up out of it. So giant willow moss, really cool looking. I'll, of course, include all the names of the mosses in the description, but none of these are really available up on the website yet, just because I'm going to be growing them out. I'm actually going to be attaching them to ledges, which we'll show later on in the video. But here's some peacock moss. This was actually free, and it's a ton of it. I was really happy about it. I've been looking for peacock moss because I had peacock moss, but it wound up dying. This is mini Pellia, or also called coral moss. It's quite rare, and it is very expensive, but a very beautiful moss nonetheless. Then this is a combined pack of a bunch of different kinds of mosses, and this right here, Fissidens Miroshaki, I believe I'm pronouncing that right. You know me with pronouncing scientific names, I'm terrible with it, but I believe that's the name of it. This stuff is legit like $30 for what you're looking at right now. Super expensive, and that was like from a hobbyist. I can only imagine like selling this in a store how much it would be. Next is queen moss. She just tossed this in a couple strands. That's the thing with moss, you only need a couple strands to get it going. Once you have them, it's a-okay. You could literally take like a clump of this, spread it out, and within a month you'll have more moss than what you know to do with. Some moss grows really slowly. Alright, so this next moss we're looking at here is called Callicostella, I'm probably butchering this, Callicostella Prabiaktana. I'm butchering it, I apologize. That was a healthy looking clump of moss, I have to tell you. That was very beautiful. That stuff is another $30 for what you saw there. It's crazy. Next up is some triangular moss. This was, I don't know how much this was. I don't see it on my list. I think she maybe just included this, or maybe I haven't marked as something else. Very beautiful moss. It's going to be interesting to see how that grows out. I'm really excited for it. I'm actually very excited for this mini weeping moss. She actually labeled it with these tiny little labels I have to see. Now, you may be saying, well, geez, that's not a whole lot of moss there. That will grow out incredibly. It's going to grow. Moss is one of those plants you just kind of leave it be, and it grows very quickly. When you're not paying attention to it, that's the key. Don't pay attention to it, just let it grow, let's do its thing. But unfortunately, you can't really tell what these mosses are going to look like from this way, because they're not underwater. They're, they've been ship transit, so they're all laying very flat, so you can't really tell what their true form is going to be just yet. But here's Fissidens Fontanus. This is more of a more common Fissidens, and I already have some, but I wanted some more. Next is Fissidens Splachnobryoides. The whole name I can't pronounce, but there's a ton of this, and this is another moss that's like $30-40 for this size portion. That's a ton of moss on this. I'm like super excited with this package because there's so many of this particular moss. So when I go to propagate it out so I can make it more readily available to you guys, I'm gonna have some. This is I'm gonna butcher it. Maibarae, I think. It's the full name is Distichphyllum Maibarae, I believe, or Maibarae. I don't know. I'm butchering it. She gave me two nice pieces here. So they're really nice looking moss too. It's hard to tell from the camera, but once you see it in the water and up close, which I've actually had these growing in the tank for a couple, probably about a week or so now. So they all look very nice. That's pretty much it. Next thing that I want to show you is kind of what I do to the moss and what I'm going to be doing to be able to sell it to you guys. And what I'm doing here is I'm attaching it to these stainless steel ledges, which I also sell on the website. And as I'm recording this, I have a large order of them coming in, all different shapes and sizes. But this is a shrimp cave. This is perfect for shrimps because it's big enough for like cherry shrimp to crawl in and out. It's not good for like Neocaridina shrimp, but if you have like cherry shrimps or blue velvets, anything of that cherry shrimp line, it's great. So what I'm doing here is I'm just attaching some of the moss with a super glue gel. The super glue dries inside the tank relatively, or pretty much as soon as it hits the water with the moisture on the moss, it'll dry and harden and allow the moss to stay put. I'm not a big fan of using super glue because it gets on your fingers, hence it really sucks. But what I use also is I use some fishing line and I tie the moss to these ledges, as well as use rubber bands. You could also use, I have some braces rubber bands. If you ever had braces or know anybody with braces, they come with these little rubber bands that they tie in, and those are actually perfect. I learned that from Kevin Kelly. He showed me when he was aquascaping how to get some moss to stick to wood really well. He just used little tiny braces rubber bands. You could buy them for like 100 on Amazon for like $5, so like you get a ton of them. And what happens is they're a food grade, they degrade over time in the water, and by the time they degrade, the moss is already sticking to what you secured it to, so that's ideal. So basically I just tied this with the fishing line because that's what I had on hand. I do 3 knots because if you only do 1, it comes loose. If you do 2, it still comes loose, and if you do 3, it really kind of holds it nicely. And I only put a little bit per ledge because it'll cover this very quickly. And same thing with this, it'll cover the shrimp cave very, very quickly as well. So you don't really have to put a whole lot, a little goes a long way. And this is kind of what they look like afterwards. I label them with all these little tags so I can keep track of them because I have tons of moss in this tank, as you can see. And these are actually going to be very, they're going to get broken down into littler pieces throughout the rest of the tank. I'm going to kind of use smaller ledges that I have available for that. And yeah, this is just what all of them look like. They look really good. They're growing out right now. And I know a lot of people were asking why I keep those plants at the top of the tank. Moss actually grows faster when it's just at the waterline surface and not too much light on it. So that's why a lot of them are out of the direct light and they're all at the water's edge because they're actually able to breathe a little oxygen and CO2 from the air, and that allows them to grow a bit faster. And that's the end of the video, guys. Thank you so much for checking it out. As always, hit that like button and subscribe if you're new, as well as hitting the notification bell next to the subscribe button if you haven't already, so you're notified every time we upload a new video or go live on our typical Wednesday live stream around 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Also, last week I asked you what kind of plant would you like to see me cover in a plant profile. We did the 4-leaf clover in the last one, and there was a bunch of comments for a bunch of different kinds, but Jennifer Howe, you won with the comment Valsenarian, and that is actually the next plant that I want to do, so be on the lookout for that. It may come next Saturday or the following Saturday, but it's going to be awesome. Alright guys, so I forgot to include the question in the outro, but simply, which moss are you most excited for and to see on the website? And let me know in the comments below, and I will choose one lucky person to win another $20 gift certificate to the store.